All right, so we're going to start with Bob Byer. So Bob Byer is in Command. He was somebody that I met at an open house. And so I tag him as a buyer. He's somebody that knows me and knows that I sell real estate. I met him at an open house. And this is the address of the open house that he met me at. If you've ever taken my capping using Command class, you'll know this is my tagging system. And then obviously my DTD2, his last name starts with B. So he is a B and E. Okay. I'm going to mark him as a lead because he just came to me over the weekend from an open house. I'm going to go ahead and call him and we're going to have a conversation. And he's telling me that he's going to go ahead and submit an application with lender. Now that he's submitted an application with the lender, I can go ahead and uncheck him as a lead. And I'm going to tag him as a current client. Okay. Now I just got word that Bob Byer is pre-approved. He called me and he let me know that he's pre-approved and he can buy up to 200,000. So I'm going to notate that, send client portal, and I'm going to hit save. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to edit. He's no longer a current client. Now he's an opportunity. And these are all just habits, right? If we get used to doing this every time, then it doesn't seem like a lot. These are habits that I have built over time. And there were times when I would forget and then I would have to go back and take away a tag or, create the opportunity. But once you get into the habit of doing these things, then it just becomes natural. So he's totally pre-approved. I only put people that are 9s or 10s into my opportunities. It's just a personal preference because I feel like with tags, you can filter through them and you can look at a quick glance of who's, submitting documents to the lender, who still is working on gathering their down payment, or who's getting their house ready if we're talking about a seller, versus having them cluttering up my opportunities and giving me a false look into my what is actually going to close in the next 2 or 3 months. So he is fully pre-approved. So I'm going to go here. You can either do this through the contact card. Since you're already having a conversation with them, I would assume that this is where you're at, or you can create an opportunity straight from opportunities, which the button is up here. The same screen will appear either way. Okay, so I'm going to go to contacts, back to contacts. I just had a conversation with him. He told me he's pre-approved. So I'm going to go here to opportunities and create the opportunity. Okay, this is my market center. This is my team. He is a buyer. And the way that I name my buyer opportunities is their full name. Okay, so Bob Byer is actually married. And even though he's applying for the loan by himself, he still wants his, the lender has told me that his wife is going to be a co-buyer. Okay, so how does that work? Now, how do I add her in here? So we're going to close out of this and we're going to go into the edit contact and we're going to add a relationship and it's going to be his spouse. So Laura Byer is his spouse and we're going to add her here and that's going to link these two buyers together. Okay, so we're going to hit save down here at the bottom. But then we're going to go and add an email address. You need an email address for each buyer to be able to sign independently. This is not something new to you guys. In Dotloop, it's the same thing. You can't use the same email address for two buyers. So we're going to click on her name. And none of the details from Bob Byer transfer over. It's something that's frustrating, but you just got to work through it and just remember the tags that you use for the other buyer and put the same tags for this for their spouse. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to add her email address and her phone number. And I'm going to go ahead and tag her with the same tags as Bob Byer. Okay, and then I'm going to hit save. All right, so now we have our spouse fully set up. And this is actually pretty nice because when you're sending out campaigns or when you're making your calls, if one person doesn't pick up, then you can at least get a touch in for that family because you have two separate contact cards for them. So I'm going to click out. I'm going to go back to contacts because this is glitching. If I click Bob Buyer, it's just going to take me right back to Laura Buyer. So obviously I use this a lot, so so I know all the little glitches that are going on right now. So I'm going to go to contacts. I'm going to click on Bob Buyer, and then I'm going to go back to start the opportunity again. So the only thing that we just did was we found out that his wife is applying with him. She needs to sign the paperwork. So I linked his wife to his contact card. Okay. So now I can go back and restart my opportunity. So I'm going to create opportunity. Again, market center team, opportunity type is buyer. I'm the owner of this opportunity. And now I can have a co-buyer here. Okay, so Bob Buyer, Laura Buyer. The way that I name my buyer opportunities is with their full name. Since they don't have an address attached to them. With a seller, I use the first part of their street address. So Bob and Laura Buyer. You can choose to put in whatever information you want. I personally do not use custom tags for opportunities. I may in the future, but right now I don't have a system for that yet. I do put in an estimated close date, just because for me, it gets it into my head that this person's really excited about moving, and then I can really track my pipeline for, right now we're looking at June. So since this person came to me today and it's May 9th, then I'm assuming they're probably going to close June 12th if we find a house for them quickly. But more than likely, it's going to take them a week to find a house. So I'm going to go ahead with June 19th. Estimated close date, I do put in a budget so that way my probable income will update, and they were pre-approved for $200,000. And you can change all of these details later. And then 3% commission. And then my opportunity phase is they're actively looking at properties. And I'm going to create the opportunity. Everybody doing okay so far? Hopefully. I don't see any questions coming up. So that's good. Okay. So now I've created my opportunity. We've gone out and we've looked at homes, and they actually are really interested in 123 Main Street. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to log into Command. Cami just showed them 123 Main Street. They called me. They said, hey, we want to write an offer on this house. I looked up the comps. It's priced well. I called the agent. They told me they have a few offers coming in, so I'm going to make it competitive. So I've done all that part, and now I'm going to log in, and I'm actually going to start working on the paperwork. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to opportunities. I'm going to go to my active buyers. I'm going to find them, Bob and Laura Buyer. And I'm going to put in the offer details that we've discussed over the phone. So I've had a conversation with them. They said, you know what, let's go in at 205, no closing costs. We really want to get this house. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to add offer. And I'm going to call it 123 Main Street. I'm going to create the offer. What this does for you is it sets you up for success, okay? It forces you to have the conversation with your clients about what are they going to be asking for? When do they want to close? All of those features of the offer that we're going to have to put into the contract ahead of time. And it also just eliminates a step later in the process when you're trying to get paid and you haven't done your commissions tab and you're trying to figure out why. Well, your offer is already going to be in here. So again, it's just habits. And this took me a really long time to get used to. So just form the habit. If somebody wants to put in an offer and you've already looked at the comps and you've discussed with your client what you're going to do, then just the very next step on your checklist should be to come to this offers tab. So we're writing the offer today, and we're going to set it to close on June 19th. The address is 123 Main Street. and we're going to go to the parties. We're going to put the seller's information here that you can get from property disclosure or whatever. I don't put in any other information other than the associate's name, and you don't even need their email address or anything like that. So I'm going to put Rachel Realtor, and then I'm going to hit terms. And this is where you put in the terms of the contract. This cash is for cash buyers. This does not mean down payment. This doesn't mean earnest. This is how much are they paying in cash if they're a cash buyer, or how much are they financing. So they're going to finance the total 205, and they're going to put down $2,000 in earnest. Okay. I don't know what this option fee is, so I don't use it. And I don't know what this termination option is. I used to assume that it was the inspection period, but I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to leave it blank. So it doesn't matter. And then the service contract that I use is $575, and the closing costs are $3,500. And, we discussed that we weren't going to ask for any closing costs. Okay. So then we're going to go to agent analysis. This part is really nice for sellers, but we don't have to do this for the buyers, right? So we're going to hit save, and our offer is sitting here ready to accept or reject. Okay, so step number 1 is complete. This doesn't do anything documents wise. It's just simply setting you up for success and building that habit of putting this as this offer information for when they do accept or reject the offer. Okay, next step is I'm going to go into documents. I'm going to click start a transaction. What this is going to do is it's going to open up your room, or what we used to refer to as a loop. Okay, and I'm going to start a transaction in DocuSign. I'm going to go ahead and log in. And now my room is formed for Bob and Laura Buyer. Okay. The one thing that you can double check is the details tab to make sure that your buyer's information is in here and it's accurate. So there's Bob Buyer and there's Laura Buyer. So they're both in there, and I'm in here as well. So we're good to go. I've stopped checking that because honestly, it's always in there. So, but you can do that the first few times just to give you a little bit of peace of mind. So we're going to click on documents. And the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to add the property disclosure and the lead-based paint. So I would add that through here. This would be in your downloads from the MLS or whatever. Let me see if I can find one. Okay, so lead-based paint. I'll just add one just for the scenario's sake. So I'm going to upload my disclosures, and then I'm going to go into envelopes. An envelope is simply a packet that you're going to send out to your buyers or sellers, to your clients, to the agent. When you're putting together an offer packet, then you have to set up an envelope, and that's what you're going to send for signatures. So you only ever use envelopes when you need signatures on something. Dotloop doesn't have that kind of feature. Like, you just add documents and you send them off. But this is just a DocuSign proprietary thing. Don't overthink it. It's just a way to get signatures. That's it. So I'm going to click on new, and then I'm taken to this page for envelope details. So I'm going to call this offer documents 123 Main Street. Okay, this makes it easy for me. Say this client ends up losing out on this house, and then they go and write on another house. Then I can easily reference my envelopes because I have them labeled so that I can easily find them. Like, oh, this was when I sent them offer documents for, 578 New Street or whatever. So this is a good way to name them. For a seller, which we'll talk about in the next part of this class, for a seller, I call it offer documents, and then I put the realtor's name, because that way, if I have multiple offers, I can look at this one and I know that Nikki sent me this one, Judy sent me that other one, and Steve sent me that one, and I can easily reference. So I'm going to call it 123 Main Street, and then I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to go down to the bottom and put that in my email signature as well. This is one of the features that I really like about DocuSign is that when somebody's finished signing, you get all the PDFs in an email. So if you're ever looking for a lost document, you can always click Offer Documents 123 Main Street in your email box, and you can find all the PDFs. So that's really nice if you have an admin or transaction coordinator too. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in my disclosures. And I did that by clicking on room documents. So these are the documents that are already in your room. And remember, all we did was upload the disclosure. So that should be the only document that's in there. So I'm going to click it and I'm going to add selected. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use a template because the rest of my documents are as templates in my template tab. So I have a few templates because, for my team, we have a contact sheet that we send out. So I've templated a lot of different documents myself, and I can show you guys how to do that. I think most of you on here are just Ohio licensed, but if you're Kentucky licensed, then the Kentucky documents are still not in DocuSign. So I just went ahead and just created my own templates. So don't focus on the problem, focus on the solution. If you really need some documents, don't just, immediately jump back into Dotloop. Try to figure it out, right? And create a template for yourself. And now I have all my Kentucky sheets in here. So what was I thinking about? All time. Oh, so your checklist. Okay. So I have done this thing for myself and for my team to have the checklist for the office compliance in an email. So I just put pending checklist for listings and pendings. And then I have my list of documents that Chris is going to be looking for. He's going to be looking for a contract, the property disclosure, lead-based paint, if applicable, consumer guide, agency affiliated, home warranty invoice, earnest check, and get a home inspection. So when I'm putting together a packet, I'm going to be looking for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 documents because these two you don't get until after you're under contract, correct? So, I'm going to be looking for 7 documents if the house was built before 1978. If it's a newer house, then you're going to need 6 documents because you don't need the lead-based paint. Okay. So then I'm going to come here and I'm going to click use a template. And if I'm going too fast, let me know. I've had a lot of coffee. I'm going to click on all templates and then I'm just going to search for these documents. So I need the contract to purchase first. And the ones for us are the starting point or the beginning of the file name is REQ for required. So that's how I know it's from my office. Being licensed in Kentucky and licensed in Ohio and licensed in Maryland, I have all sorts of templates from all sorts of different market centers. So you might not have this problem, but I do. So I have to look for the one that says REQ for our Montgomery office. So I'm going to click select. And then this is another really nice feature is that you can dig through these templates, select them, and they go into this selected batch and you can search again. So the property disclosure is going to come from the MLS. So the next thing on our checklist is consumer guide because we already have the lead-based paint in the envelope. So I'm going to click consumer guide and REQ. So I'm going to select. Then I'm going to look for agency disclosure. REQ. I'm going to look for affiliated business disclosure. And then I'm going to look for the get a home inspection document. And I click add selected. My internet's slow, sorry. Okay, so now all of our templates are added. We have our property disclosure and our lead-based paint, so we're good to go. Now we're going to add recipients to this envelope. So these are either the people that are going to be signing or receiving the documents. And this part's really cool. So I'm going to add pre-tagged roles. I'm the agent, so I'm going to put myself on there. Then we have a buyer, which is going to be Bob Buyer. Then we have another buyer, which is Laura Buyer. And as you'll see when we go into the seller documents, I'm only going to have one seller for my seller scenario. And if you don't select two people, then you won't have that blank box like you do in .loop, where the templates have two buyers or two sellers, and then you find your one buyer or your one seller clicking on both of them and signing both spots. I found that extremely irritating. With DocuSign, you don't have that problem, because if you don't have two clients on one envelope, then it just puts the one box. So I think that's pretty cool. So I'm going to add myself. I'm going to add my two buyers. I'm going to click Add Selected. So then these little boxes over here just say what order they're going to get them in. So you can change the order so that your buyers get it first and you get it second to sign. It doesn't really make a difference. It's personal preference. I usually just get it along with them. So I'm going to put them all in first place. However, then you can add another person. It doesn't have to be a pre-tagged role. If you've used pre-tagged roles, you can also add by email address or by room participants. And room participants are the people that are in the room. So that's going to be your buyers and you. So in this case, I'm going to use email address because it's not either of those options. And then I'm going to put in like Jim McNally and his email address, because he's my administrator and I want him to get a copy of the completed envelope to either send off to the agent or whatever you want to do. But I'm just using this as an example. I'm going to put him in second place. Whoa. Is there a way to group all needed documents to a listing or sale packet? No, there isn't. You just have to select them. It literally takes 5 seconds though, because of the search feature and being able to select and add them. So I'm going to put them in second place, but instead of needs to sign, I'm going to put receives a copy. I think that's really, really cool. So you can put the agent in there, but since there's just buyer specific documents like the consumer guide, you may not want to do that. If you don't really care, then that's an easy way for them to just get the packet as soon as it's signed. So for like post-inspection addendums, I use that feature a lot, where as soon as the buyer signs, I have the listing agent in second place and they get a copy as soon as it's signed. So I think that's really cool and a time saver. So I'm going to take him off. So now that we've had all of our recipients added, you can put an email message in here. It's really not that visible when you go into the email. Like there's a big display on review your documents, and then they have to scroll all the way to the bottom to see your message. So I stopped even putting a message in there because most people don't even see it. So I've got everything set up. I've got all my documents. I've got my buyers. I've got everything labeled. So I'm just going to go up here and click next. This is where you're taken to your screen where you can edit your documents. So with something that's not pre-templated, like a disclosure, we're going to have to come in and add our signatures manually. And we're used to that because with .loop, you had to do the same thing. So I have two buyers for this lead-based paint. So I'm going to select Bob Buyer. And there's different colors for each recipient. So Bob Buyer is blue, I'm yellow, and Laura Buyer is purple. So I'm going to select Bob Buyer. I'm going to select initial. And these boxes are really wonky. They're so big. But anyway, I'm going to put him there. And I'm going to put Laura Buyer right next to him. And it automatically adjusts the size of all recipients when you adjust one of them, which I think is also really cool. So select that. And then I'm going to put date signed. The date signed is super long. So I like to put it somewhere where it can have space to expand. And I'm just going to put one date signed for all three of these initials. That's just a personal preference thing. You can put a date signed on each one, but it just creates a lot of clutter. So I'm going to select these, and then I can go copy and paste and copy and paste. Okay, so I have my 3 initial spots, and they can overlap, which is another really nice feature of DocuSign, is you're not getting all these X's, like you can't overlap these fields. Really weird little things like that make me happy. So I'm gonna put a checkbox here for waived and for received an opportunity. And then you can select these and make them read only if you don't want them to select them, but because they're not checked read only, then they can go in and select their option. Then I'm going to add a signature box for each of my buyers. So Bob Buyer has a signature box here. I can make these smaller if I want and put a date signed. And then Laura Buyer, signature box, again, automatically adjusts the size and date signed. And then I'm going to put myself in here, signature box and date signed. So yes, for every single one of your signatures, you have to put a date signed in order for it to be time stamped. That's annoying. It's okay. So this one is now complete, right? We have our initials, we have our check boxes, we have our date signed, we have all our signatures, we're good to go. So now I'm going to move down to the bottom to the next document, and I'm going to put in my client's names and the address of the property that they're wanting to buy. Okay, and then they can, again, have a selection on here, or if you already talked to them and they're looking to have a home inspection done, then you would click on it and you would hit your space bar to select it. Or if you don't want to hit the space bar, you can hit checked over here. If you want to, check it ahead of time, but if you want them to do it, that's fine too. So you can leave it either way and check it out. These are already in there because it's a template. So if I only had one buyer, there would only be one signature box. Then I'm going to go down. This is also already done. So it has my client's signature box, their full name, their date signed, and then my information down here at the bottom. So for this full name, it's one of these options over here that auto fills with the name that's on the room. So if I put this over here, it's going to automatically pull Bob Buyer's information from the details page, and it's going to write Bob Buyer for you. So you don't have to spend the time writing his name every time. You can just drag that over as full name. This agency disclosure document, I don't know, it's really weird. My suggestion for you guys, it's something wrong with the template, but it pulls information from the contract. And I've had 2 situations where it changes this brokerage to $500 or to $1,000, whatever my earnest amount is. So what I've started doing is just deleting this whole portion and just putting in new text boxes. And that'll give us a little bit more training on how to do that anyway. So I'm going to put in property address, 123 Main Street, Laura and Bob Buyer. What do we name her? Susie Seller. And then I'm going to go here and I'm going to select myself to add information. So that way my client isn't prompted to fill that in. So anything that's in yellow is my stuff to fill out. So if you don't want your clients being asked, oh, what company do you work for? Because it's asking me to fill it out, then make sure that you're selecting yourself and that the right color is being put on the document. So then I'm going to go here and I'm going to put my name, full name. So that way I don't have to type Florida Maria McNally. And then I'm going to put company comes up as Keller Williams Realty Inc. So I would just suggest using a text box and typing it in. Since it's a long name, we can go over here to formatting and we can put in the 7 font size. And I'm going to click outside of the box and that's filled in. When it is totally highlighted, that means it's a required field. And you're just going to be prompted more often when you're signing your documents. Hey, make sure you have this filled in. Hey, you make sure you have this filled in. I get really annoyed with that stuff. So I just unclick the required field and it makes it just white. And so that way I'm not being asked to fill that in. These were already templated to be filled in, so it's whatever. The seller will be represented by Rachel Realtor. And you double click on the box to be able to edit it. And then I can take this box and I can hit copy and paste. That way I don't have to reformat it. I don't have to, stretch out the box, whatever. So we're going to say she's with Coldwell Banker. Who's going to recruit her? Just kidding. Okay, so Coldwell Banker West Shell. Then I'm going to go down and check it out. They've already put the signature blocks for us. If you like to get initials on the second page, then you can do that by just doing the same thing that we did on the lead-based paint and grabbing a signature or initial box, and then just one date signed is sufficient. Then we scroll down, we have the consumer guide to agency relationships. Their full name is going to auto-populate, and there's their signature blocks and then the date signed. And you notice that Deborah put them at the bottom just because they're really long, the date signs are. All right, so now we get to the contract. We just start filling it in. So anything that, or it's not April, it's May. Anything that you don't want it to prompt you to fill out, you want to change it from required to read only. So I'm going to put 123 Main Street. For example, this further described as, usually the whole tax ID fills into this box. So what I do is I either make this not required or I just delete it altogether. Okay, so that way I'm not holding up my document because it's asking me to fill that in. Does that make sense? Because it'll come back to you and it'll say, hey, you still need to fill this out. And it's like, there's nothing to put in there. So I just nip it in the bud and just get rid of it right off the front end. So then I put the price that we're looking to pay, my earnest amount, and then Keller Williams, 7 Hills Realty. So for time's sake, I'm going to go ahead and delete all the required fields. So that way I can just send the packet out. You don't need to go through filling out an entire document. So all I'm doing is deleting the highlighted boxes, so I'm not prompted to fill that out before I can send it. Okay, and that's my last document in my packet. You can choose to look at it as a recipient preview if you're nervous, but I'm just going to go ahead and send it. I can see that one of them already came in. That sign now box disappears so fast. So, but you can click on it and you can sign your portion of the documents here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so all the spots where the agent has to sign, I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to click continue. I'm going to click start. I'm going to sign and see how it's prompting me to fill this out. These were highlighted boxes, but I already have stuff in there, so it's not going to bug me about it. I'm going to sign there. See the red boxes? You need to fill this out. It's already filled out, so I don't need to worry about it. I'm going to keep on scrolling. All these boxes are red, but they have stuff in them. And I'm done. So I'm going to hit finish. Oh, see, there it is. Required, further described as. So I'm going to put tax ID. I'm going to click finish. And I immediately get a notification on my phone saying that the documents have been signed. by me. So a way to check to see who's viewed the documents, what the history is, like we used to be able to do on Dotloop. It's not going to show up here that they viewed it, but you can check it over here, view envelope history. So Laura received the document and so did Bob Byer. And what that means is that it's hit their inbox, but they haven't viewed it yet. I received the envelope, I viewed it, and then I signed it. Which I don't know why that's not showing up. So how do you get to this screen? Remember, we're in envelopes, and I just clicked on the envelope. Okay, so that's why it's crucial to name your envelopes what they are, because then if somebody says, I didn't get the offer, oh, yes, you did. And since I've already submitted 3 offers for this particular client and we've lost every time, then I can easily go to 123 Main Street and I can go to the envelope history and I can see that, you know, I sent it and it hit their inbox. It didn't bounce. Okay, so now we're gonna go in as a consumer. So here is, it's from me, Florida Maria McNally, offer documents 123 Main Street. And so this is where the email message would show, but people just skip over it. They just see review documents and they click there. So I'm gonna review documents as Bob Byer. And then it's just gonna go through and ask him to initial. Okay, I'm gonna adopt an initial. And do you see the little date sign things? They're so long, they don't even fit on the page. I'm gonna click sign there, sign there, sign there, and just go through and do all of my little signatures. Looks exactly like Dotloop. And they can stop and review if they want. They can print, they can download, they can zoom in if they can't see it. You know, whatever they want to do. You're going to sign there, and then they're going to be prompted to finish the document. Okay, Laura Byer also got it over here at the same time. She's going to review the documents. And again, I got the notification right away that Bob Byer has signed the documents. I'm going to click continue. And remember, we put the purple date signed. And so now it's appearing here because it's Laura that's signing. And because Anne had this account, the admin account, it's filling in Anne Thomas as the name. So that's interesting. So it was asking her when it prompted, right? It said, what is your name? Do you want to type it in? Kind of like Dotloop does. And I didn't change it, so I changed it to Anne Thomas. So they can change their name. Like if you've been referring to them as a middle name, but they want to put their legal first name on there, they do have the ability to do that. Okay. And they can go in here and they can change it if they want to. I can change it to Laura Byer. Actually kind of scary. You can just call themselves whatever. So now it's changed all of the signatures. See, now she's Laura Byer. Okay, so you do have the ability to do that. So she signed there, initial, 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 sign and sign. Now it's finished. So then I'm going to come back here. And it tells me when they viewed the documents, when they opened them up, when they signed them. And then this one is the really cool one where it says completed. And it has, oh, didn't copy them on here. Well, it usually has the PDFs on there, so I don't know what that's about. So it usually comes up like this. It says your documents have been completed, and it puts the document as a PDF at the bottom. I don't know why I didn't do that this time, but it's okay. So then I'm going to go back to my envelopes. I'm going to hit refresh. And now I have a completed envelope. I'm going to go to documents, and the ones that are green are the ones that have my client's signature on them. Okay, there's both of their signatures. So now I'm going to go back into opportunities, and I've talked to the seller's agent. They're going to accept our offer. Everybody's happy. So I'm going to click accept here. That's my first step. And look at that. The commissions tab opens up. And now you're able to put in your green sheet as part of your checklist for compliance. And then when I go to documents, I'm going to click sync transaction, update it. That's going to pull all the documents from DocuSign. And then I'm going to click on pick checklist type, residential Ohio. And then I'm going to go to under contract. And that's where I can start attaching documents to all the different items that are required. And the way that I stay organized with that is by having that checklist that we talked about at the very beginning. I have my checklist in my email. And so I'm just going to go through and I'm going to use the checklist from my email as my reference point. So I'll show you what that means. I'm going to click checklist for listings and pendings. And so part of my checklist right at the beginning when a property goes under contract is to submit the file for review. I don't want to be at the closing table scrambling, trying to, submit my document, calling up Chris. I really want to get paid. It's just, it's better to just set yourself up at the beginning. So it's part of my checklist at the beginning to go through and submit the file for review. I'm going to pull up my pending checklist. I know that this is what the office wants, the market center wants. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to go number 1, contract to purchase. And I'm going to look for contract to purchase in here. Here it is, Ohio executed sales contract. I'm going to click add file, DocuSign, and I'm going to find the signed contract and assign it. Okay, so now this checklist item has a document attached to it that Chris can review and see, okay, it has all the signatures, we're good to go. So don't use this checklist as the reference point. You use your own checklist, whether you want to put it on a sticky note. I use an email so that way everybody has access to it. But this is how you can go through. The next document that I need to find is a property disclosure. So I go through the list and I find property disclosure signed by both parties, add a file, DocuSign, and look for my document there. If you want to do a bunch at the same time, you can click on attach multiple files, DocuSign, and then go through and, in the same exact way, the next document is lead-based paint. I'm going to look for lead-based paint. It's right here. And then I'm going to attach my document, lead-based paint. Okay. And then once you're done attaching all the documents, then I'm going to just click here, submit to Market Center. All right, so that's how you take a lead all the way through submitting for compliance. Was that helpful? Hopefully. Oh, you guys are all muted. Okay. Okay, great. So now let's go through and let's do a seller. It's going to be very similar. But this time we just have one seller. I got the lead from a past client referral. I haven't talked to her yet. I have a scheduled call with her today at 11. So then I'm going to go in and I'm going to add activity, call, discussed plans for sale, set appointment for Friday. Okay. She's going to work on decluttering over the weekend. Whatever we talked about, right? I'm logging every interaction. It's just a habit. I'm going to hit save. Then the first thing that I'm going to do is uncheck her as a lead because I've had a conversation with her and she's going to do the next steps. So then I'm going to hit edit. I'm going to put her in as current. And I'm going to hit save. Then I'm going to meet with her at her house and we've set a showing date and got document signed. She will let me know when she's ready for our deep cleaner. So on our team, we go in and we deep clean all of our listings prior to photos. So I'm going to hit save. And now she's not a current because she's signed the listing documents. Now she's an opportunity. Okay. So I'm going to click opportunities. I'm going to create an opportunity. And I forget where she lives. Let's see. She lives on, 123 Main Street. What do you know? All right. So I'm going to create opportunity. My market center's Montgomery team. She is a listing opportunity and it's just her. She doesn't have a husband. So I'm going to go here to Sally Seller and I'm going to change the opportunity name to 123 Main Street. That's just my system. You don't have to use it. Estimated close date, if we're going to put it live on the MLS next week, then we're probably going to get a contract for end of June. Again, that's just my system. I like to keep a pretty good pulse on my pipeline. So estimated list price, she's going to list it for $175 and my commission rate's 3%. And then I'm going to go to opportunity phase. I'm going to put active and she's in the cleaning and staging phase. And I'm going to create the opportunity. Okay. So if you're at the house and you didn't bring printed documents for her to sign, you can have this ready to go to just click send from your phone and have her sign there electronically on the spot. I typically have them sign paper documents because I'm at their home. But right now, since we're doing virtual appointments, then we're having to use the electronic document. So it's just however you run things, right? But if you're going to expect to have electronic signatures, then just have the opportunity already ready to go. We're not going to have any offers until it actually goes live, but we are going to start getting documents ready. And then once you actually do have the active listing, then you can come here and link them up to the opportunity. So I'm going to hit start a transaction, DocuSign. Okay. And then if I had them signed on paper, then I can just upload the big file. And let's just see if I have a big file that I could split up. Here's multiple documents. Sure, we'll just try that. So say you just scanned everything and you uploaded it to your computer, then you can just upload it to DocuSign, and then you can click on it. You can click this little piece of paper up here called Document Actions, and you can split it. You actually get a really nice preview of the documents in DocuSign where you don't have to like keep scrolling up and down like in Dot Loop to try to split it. You can select them through here. Like say I want to put listing agreement. And then I could either type the numbers 1 through 8, or I can go through and I can select the pages that I want, which I think is really cool. Okay, so then you would add another document. You could put agency disclosure, whatever it is, and just click on the page that is relevant and then hit save. And that lets you keep that big file, but it also splits and gives you 2 separate files. So this is really nice for inspection reports. So when you have an inspection report, I've had recently a lot of agents, and I don't know, I run my business differently and I don't judge anybody that does it a different way. But when I put together a post-inspection addendum, I send the entire inspection report after asking my buyers. But some people like just the relevant pages. And so I've gotten that request a lot lately. And before it's like, I'm not going to do that work to split it up. But now it's so easy. Like you take this multiple documents, hit split, and then I can actually like, it even zooms in. And then I can find like, oh, okay, this is the one that has the furnace issue on it. So then I can put relevant portions of report. I can zoom in and I can click this page and then hit save. And it keeps my big report, but it also gives me just the relevant portions of the report, which I think is really cool. So then it would just go through the same thing, right? So we go to envelope to set up our listing packet, create envelope. We're going to call it listing documents. And since this is a listing, then I don't need to put the address on there because it's going to be the same address every time. So then here I would put listing documents for the email. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to select my documents that I need. And again, I have a checklist over here that tells me the documents that I need for a listing packet for Ohio. Okay, and then you go through and you select, and then you add your recipients and you do the same steps as with the buyer packet. So what do you guys think? Was that good? Oh, I have a bunch of questions. I'm sorry. Let me unmute everybody. All right. So let me see.
Thanks, Flor.
You're welcome. Was that good? Was that helpful? Do you guys feel empowered?
So helpful.
Good, good.
Quick question. If I am still using .loop for a period or whatever, and someone else is using DocuSign, say they send me something in DocuSign, how does that work?
It's the same way as the example with the splitting the documents. You would just upload it, and then you would add it as room documents if your clients need to sign it. And you would grab the document, and then you would add signatures, just like we did with the lead-based paint on the first example.
So you can't just use .loop if another agent's using DocuSign. You have to learn it no matter what.
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood your question. If you want to use .loop, then you do the same thing that you would do with a regular PDF on .loop.
Okay, thank you.